Over the last few days, the transfer portal has gone absolutely crazy, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about 5 quarterbacks who entered the portal, where I think they'll go next, who they are, and how good I think they can be at their next stop. But before we get started, we're so close to 100K, so be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you want to support today's video, turn on notifications so you never miss when I upload, and let me know what player, topic, team, or situation I could cover next. Now, let's talk about 5 big-time quarterbacks who are now in the transfer portal. The first guy I want to talk about is Tyler Macon. Coming out of East St. Louis High School, Macon was your average 3-star recruit, but Mizzou head coach Barry Odom decided to offer him very early on in the process. But head coach Elijah Drinkwitz offered Macon very early on, and he'd eventually blow up. He led his team to a 14-0 record, a 6A state championship, and threw for 5,340 yards in only 14 games. Because of that, Macon was invited to the Elite 11, where he would absolutely blow up. He went from the 50th ranked quarterback in the class to the 25th best quarterback in his class and finished 9th in the Elite 11 rankings. Because of that, Macon was bumped up and was now seen as one of the better quarterbacks in the class of 2021. According to 24/7 Sports, he was a 4-star, the number 388 player, and the 34th best quarterback in the class of 2021. Macon would arrive at Mizzou behind both Connor Bazelak and Brady Cook, but when Bazelak would get hurt during the 2021 season, Macon was called upon. He ended up running for a game-winning touchdown against Vanderbilt, and then would get the start against Georgia the following week. Macon didn't really do a whole lot, but he finished with 143 yards and 2 total touchdowns as a freshman. Going into 2022, Bazelak was now gone to Indiana, and Brady Cook was named the starter. Macon fell behind both transfer Jack Abraham and true freshman Sam Horn, and did not really get an opportunity to play. There are a lot of complaints about him not seeing the field, but it looks like something went on behind the scenes as Macon decided to enter the transfer portal, and he'll now have an opportunity to go to another school. The biggest complaint about Macon was his lack of arm talent, and he was seen as a big-time project player, so there definitely are knocks against him, but he's an extremely athletic player who I think in the right system could flourish. At this point, I don't think he'll go to another Power 5 school, but will instead go down another level where I think he'll make a big impact. Following in the footsteps of guys like Brendan Dowdy, Mike White, and Bailey Zappi, Austin Reed became the next great Western Kentucky quarterback, except this is not how it always was for him. Growing up in St. Augustine, Florida, Reed became a big-time high school player, but did not get a ton of interest. He originally decided to commit to Southern Illinois, who is a respectable FCS school, but he eventually transferred home to West Florida. While he was there, he would put up insane numbers. His team won a Division II national championship that year, and he threw for over 4,000 yards with 40 touchdowns. Because of that, he decided to enter the transfer portal, where he was then taken up by Western Kentucky. This year, Reed was insane. He threw for 4,247 yards with 36 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He also led the Hilltoppers to a pretty good season, and I do believe he has legit NFL potential down the road, which is why he decided to enter the portal again. He'll more than likely make the jump from Western Kentucky to a Power 5 school, and while I have no idea where that'll be, maybe he'll go down to one of the Florida schools, but more than likely he'll just go to whatever team needs a starting quarterback. Austin Reed has a pretty insane story, and I think it is just getting started. The next guy we need to talk about is former Colorado quarterback Brendan Lewis. While Colorado has been a completely forgettable program over the last few years, Brendan Lewis actually had a lot of potential and showed flash while he was there. Coming out of Melissa High School in Texas, Lewis was a 6'3" player who had offers from all around the country. He had 14 total offers and eventually decided to commit to Mel Tucker over the Missouri Tigers. Even though Tucker left for Michigan State, he decided to stay with head coach Carl Durrell, and Lewis would become a starter pretty quickly. In high school, he was pretty insane, as during his senior year, he threw for nearly 3,000 yards and 40 touchdowns and still had over 1,000 yards and 11 scores on the ground. The guy was absolutely insane, and as I said, won the starting job pretty quickly. While he was only a 3-star player, the coaching staff had a lot of confidence in him. He'd play very minimally in 2020 before he would take over as a starter in 2021. Unfortunately, Colorado was horrible, as he'd only throw for 1,500 yards with 10 touchdowns and 3 picks. This year wasn't much better, as he had less than 100 yards passing and didn't register a single score. Lewis is a great athlete who has a lot of potential, and it looks like Coach Prime is going to go with his son, so Lewis wisely entered the portal and now will have to find a new school. Ultimately, I do think he will go down a level, but ultimately, I think he can be a star when he gets there. The next guy we need to talk about is Keaton Slovis. You guys probably know his name, as at one time, he was the projected number 1 overall pick for the 2022 draft. He has had quite the story. Coming out of Desert Mountain High School, Slovis would blow up towards the end of his career, as a senior, he threw for 3,000 yards with 32 touchdowns and only 5 picks. He was coached by Kurt Warner and eventually got offers from schools such as Oregon State, Vanderbilt, and USC. Clay Helton had taken a flyer on him, and he decided to commit to the Trojans. According to 24/7 Sports, Slovis was only a 3-star player, the number 26 pro-style quarterback, and the 705th best player in the class of 2019. The Trojans already had JT Daniels as their quarterback, so there was no way Slovis was going to play as a freshman. He ended up winning the backup role, but when Daniels went down with an injury, he would take over and have an extremely memorable freshman season. He threw for 3,500 yards with 30 touchdowns and only 9 interceptions, and USC fans and scouts were super pumped for his future. Unfortunately, in 2020, he would begin to regress. He only threw for 2,000 yards and 17 touchdowns, and then it reached a low in 2021 as he threw for 2,100 yards and 11 touchdowns while battling injury and eventually getting benched for Jackson Dart. Because of that, he decided to enter the portal and transferred across the country to Pitt. Pitt had just recently had a ton of success with Kenny Pickett, so he was hoping to come in and do the same thing. Unfortunately, that is not how it went. He threw for 2,397 yards with 10 touchdowns and 9 picks, and ultimately just struggled to score the ball, and the staff did not coach him up to his potential. It was a pretty disappointing season for Slovis, and he has since decided to enter the portal again. Former Boston College and Notre Dame quarterback Phil Dracovic just decided to transfer to Pitt, so Slovis is now in the portal and will have a couple of options. I've heard rumors he could go to Mizzou, or he could go back home to one of the Arizona schools, and at this point, I think Keaton will get one more chance at a Power 5 job, but a lot of that potential and hype he had has slowly fallen apart, and it's been unfortunate to see, but hopefully he can save it all next year. The last guy we're going to talk about in today's video is DJ Uiagalelei. I've probably talked about this guy 100 times on the channel, but in case you haven't heard, he went to St. John Bosco Prep in California and became one of the top quarterbacks in his class and in the last decade. At 6'4", Uiagalelei could pretty much do everything, which is why he was ranked as the #1 pro-style quarterback in the class of 2020. He's also a 5-star recruit and the 10th best player, and he decided to commit to Clemson over Oregon and a couple of other schools. As a true freshman, he would back up Trevor Lawrence, but would get a couple opportunities to play. Trevor would miss the game against both Boston College and Notre Dame, and against Boston College he went off, and then he had an insane game against Clemson. DJ would finish his freshman year with 914 yards, with 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. It looked like the sky was the limit for him, and with Lawrence going off to the NFL, he was set to take over. He got a ton of NIL deals, was hyped up for the Heisman, and some thought he could be better than Watson and Lawrence. Except that is not how it went. In 2021, Uiagalelei would struggle. This was very apparent in their first game against Georgia, and the trend continued. The Tigers ended up losing 3 games, and DJ had more interceptions than touchdowns. He finished the year with 2,246 yards, with 9 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He also only completed 55% of his passes, and many were already over DJ and wanted a different quarterback. Except Dabo doesn't do the transfer portal, so they were stuck with DJ, and with them bringing in a new offensive coordinator, maybe his luck could change. In 2022, it was pretty much the same story as last year, as this time he finished with 2,521 yards, with 22 touchdowns and 7 picks. While the numbers went up, many were concerned with how DJ had progressed. They thought he limited the offense and that he wasn't getting much better. He had a couple of notable performances, but for the most part, I would have to agree with those people. While DJ didn't have a bad season, everyone knew he was gone once Cade Klubnik looked a lot better against North Carolina. In the past few hours, DJ decided to enter the portal, and now he'll have plenty of schools that are going to take a chance on him. Not only does he have decent stats, but he has insane physical traits and pretty much unlimited potential, so if there's a coach out there that can get the most out of him, then they will definitely get a steal. If I had to pick, I'd say DJ's probably going to go back to the West Coast, but at this point, any Power 5 school could get him, and there will be an all-out bidding war for him. But what do you guys think? If you're a fan of any of these 5 teams or schools, let me know what you think of these quarterbacks and where they're going to go next. Let me know another player in the portal I can take a look at in my next video. And before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.